Are you going to come back to PF2 when they release it to Steam, by the way? First of all, good question, because that means you probably know me from Pre-Fortress or something I made about Pre-Fortress, but I don't know who you are. Second of all, I doubt it. There's balanced decisions I believe they're making that I believe are bad for the game. I believe the game's identity was better preserved in versions like 0.7. And while 0.7 wasn't perfect, it was better than the current version right now, 0.7.6. And I will play it when it comes to Steam, just to see how much they've changed it. And then I'll probably never play it again. I genuinely might just install 0.7 again to just play it there. Because you can still get the old versions to function through the same way you used to hook them up long, long ago. Chuck 43, oh my gosh. Yes, I do remember you. Yeah. Has it really been that long? Gosh. Well, you've probably been around for longer than me if it was 5 years, because I joined in, what was it, January of 22 or 23? But yeah, man. Yeah, I remember playing with you. Man, those were the best of times. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it all depends on their execution, I guess, but presently I don't see much of a reason to go back and play it outside of some old versions. Maybe I could make some tweaks to the older versions, but I don't know, man. I'll play it when it releases. I'll play it on release day. I don't know when release day is. I would love to know. It doesn't help, too, that I made a mistake when talking about the developers, and they swiftly punished me for that mistake, and I didn't get a chance to really apologize properly, and I've just kind of left it as is. I said... I made note of a particular decision that was rumored to occur, and I said to heckle them for it, because in my head, heckle was the same as just do criticism. I did not think it was synonymous with harassment, and I was wrong, and I would love to take it back and tell them that, because they permanently banned me from the Discord server and the Steam discussion boards. But, you know, I made the mistake. That's the consequences of my actions, and I just have to live with that now. But I haven't been game banned, so I am still playing the game. I can still play the game, I should say. I don't know if I'll play it when it, I don't know if I'll stick with it when it releases. I made a couple videos about it on the second channel. They're not the best phrased, and I also think that people still expect... Gosh, there's so much that goes into it. You know what? To be perfectly honest, I think there's some straw men that the developers raise when criticism comes about of their present decisions that were directed towards me that I just don't believe in. But this is something that, when PF2 does come out, I will make a video on it here on this channel. I will make a proper video about it, because Pre-Fortress 2, the way I remember it and the way I remember playing it, is the most... It's my favorite multiplayer game. It's still my favorite multiplayer game. I have struggled to replace it, in a sense, especially after the collapse of Nailgun World. It's been great to play Gold Rush and to experience that particular side of TF2 that those developers want to bring about. I've been playing Team Fortress Classic with all the old heads that still play this game, that still play that game, and it's like, oh man, those games are great, but at the same time, they're just not Pre-Fortress, and I love everything about Pre-Fortress 2, and I wish I could properly explain what made old versions like 0.7 so special, and it's funny too, because one of the original programmers, the lead programmer for a time actually, emailed me and talked about it, and talked about his own falling out with the current developers and how their design philosophy is so fundamentally different from his. And I don't agree with every decision he had about his design philosophy, but his design philosophy seems much more coherent and sound than theirs right now, and that's just from my experience talking to them and trying to research as much as I can about this, you know. And I actually downloaded his personal fork of the code, and it's different. It functions differently, but it is so cool. It is so cool. I think Pre-Fortress could benefit from various changes, but I believe they're the changes that the developers aren't going to make, especially when they're going to be doing things like overhauling. From what I remember, they're going to be overhauling the grenade system. They're going to be drastically changing the way all of that works, and they're also going to be introducing new weapons and stuff. The models have also been updated, and I know that people bring up the whole straw man of like, oh, you know, Pre-Fortress, you know, it departed from beta years ago. It's not beta accurate. It's never been beta accurate. And it's like, that's not ever why I played the game, right? That's not why I ever played the game. I played the game because its beta-inspired graphics were interesting as a hook, but the reason I stayed was because the gameplay was so skill-focused, right? You didn't have unlocks that you could rely upon if you had a skill gap, you know, or if you wanted to play a different way. You just had to get good with the weapons you had, you know, and the mobility that you got from grenades still cost you armor and health in the same way that it does in TFC. Of course, with the versions that I remember playing, less damage was taken from grenade jumping, but I think for the engine that TF2 runs on and for those overall class mechanics, that actually works better. Because the grenades still do heavy damage against enemies, and just stuff like that is what irritates me, because I think the developers are of the opinion that I'm just one of those guys that wishes PF2 stayed as a beta accurate thing, and no, I don't, but at the same time, why update the models if this is pre-Fortress 2? If you're refining it, it's not pre-anything, it should really just be rebranded. I think I would feel better about that, honestly, because it would at least that would be honest, you know? But it's so hard to talk about this, and it's so hard to sort of appropriately get every point I have together. But when the game comes out on Steam, I will play it, and I will go back and play a couple versions of the older games as well, and just wrap my head really around why I believe what I believe about the game. And I'll probably make live streams about the writing of that script, too, because I like doing that now. I have faith in the current dev team. Steam release should be coming out around next year. Next year, huh? I believe Point 8 will have some good balancing changes. I hope so, because the recent ones that they had do not inspire confidence in me. Like the strange recalculation of armor or blast resistances with the blast classes in particular, or how grenade jumping deals more damage when there's no evidence as to why it really ought to be that way, or engineer passively repairing his own armor like medic does with his own health, or how sniper has the tracer, which, as I actually discuss in this video, is a very stupid idea, because the tracer doesn't actually address any of the issues people have when playing against sniper, so it's stupid. I believe the devs would be fine with taking you back into the community after some discussion. If you want me to reach out to them, I can ask about it for you. Yeah, sure. You can do that. I don't mind that. It is depressing, though, because I've talked about it with some of the other old heads, like Black Dynamite and JC Denton, if you remember him, and they're of a similar mind as myself, I think. I don't actually know much about JC Denton's view of it, but Black Dynamite and I are of a common mind on this quandary, I suppose. I remember getting into your videos from watching the PF2 videos on your second channel. Really? Wow, that is a way to find me. That's not it's not a very common way to find me, but shoot, man, that's cool. Fellow TFCer, IMO, what PF2 captures is the best. The best is the chaotic energy of Quake World, Team Fortress, TFC, and the golden area of TF2, all bundled up in one amazing love letter to all things Team Fortress. I agree, but I think it was done better in previous versions. Of course, there were some errors. Scout's health should have stayed 75, and his armor should have stayed 25. He should have never been buffed because the nail gun is already really strong. I think if you were part of the Nailgun World servers, man, you were you might remember how aggressively powerful players like JC Denton or Boxy were with Scout in particular, because it's the same quote-unquote issue that's present in base TF2, where his health has been buffed up because of the factor of 25 rule, so much to the point where there's certain weaknesses Scout should inherently have because of his class role that he suddenly can more or less circumvent because he's just stronger. And considering that the nail gun is pretty powerful in pre-Fortress already, it doesn't make sense why he should have that health and armor recalculation. He should have just stayed 75-25. Especially considering that Engineer was 80-50 like he was in TFC for so long, you know? Speaking of nade jumping, they have currently been fixed in their latest patch to do the self-damage they did before they were bugged, which is a step in the right direction in terms of fixing issues. Yeah, I noticed that. They still deal more damage than I remember them doing, because again, 0.7 was the one we had the most experience in Nailgun World, and that one, if you grenade jumped as a pyro, right, because he had 150 medium armor and 100 health, if you grenade jumped with him, you would burn down to 75, 125, right? In the newest version, they did fix the bug that basically broke him down to like 40 and 2 or something like that, because Sniper would freaking die from one jump. But it's still higher damage. It's higher self-damage taken than what I'm used to, and I'm still studying whether or not that is a personal problem or if that is something I can point to as objectively a bad thing. It might be a personal problem. It probably is, but I have to check again to be sure. I have to do some math, because of course PF2 is built on the Team Fortress engine. The classes function differently because their weapons still generally are different than the TFC ones, and the TFC grenades are super strong against yourself as much as they are other players, because team damage is on by default, and so everything deals an incredible amount of damage in that game. That game is also way higher mobility, especially when you play with the pros that I've been doing recently, and that's not the goal of PF2, obviously, but it seems that the goal of PF2 has fundamentally changed, especially now that the lead programmer doesn't work on the game anymore and has more or less disavowed that project and is working on something else. And there's a point where you can compare and contrast the design choices and definitively say that one's better than the other, but again, it's very, very complicated, and I haven't gathered all of my resources together for that. Lord, how time has flown. As time goes on, a lot of the OGs disappear, but that's how it goes. Yeah, it's depressing, because I dream of a day when I could play PF2 with all the guys again, you know? A-Meister 64, and JC Denton, and Black Dynamite, and you know, yourself, Chuck 34, and Wrangler 05. Gosh, there were so many players. Heaven and Hello, TOA Bowsette, because she joined because of me, I think, because I showed her the game. And man, yeah, there was so many good times that were had on those servers. I'm not even remembering all the names properly, but those are just the names that immediately come to mind. I'd love to play again with those guys. That would be so much fun. I remember Nailgun World. I remember it way before Boxy went crazy and disabled map nominations and restricted engineers' buildings. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, man. Because of especially considering how well he used to be, how good he was as a host, and how much suggestions he took into account. Like, he would have multiple servers up specifically for some servers to have those experimental restrictions, but he still had the standard one for, you know, the gameplay that people were used to. I miss those days. Obviously, not to forget the drama surrounding it. Yeah. Yeah, that was something. Speaking of snipers, Mechany was brutal on Sniper during Nailgun World's prime. I don't remember Mechany much. I do remember someone of that name type being very good, but it was still to an extent where, like, seasoned snipers like JC Denton and arguably myself towards the end of my time playing could still hold our own against him, because PF2 is the game I got the best at Sniper with, partly because I would duel with JC Denton all the time, and that was so much fun, man. The strongest the classes have ever been in their own regards, while still making their class roles incredibly distinct and unique to themselves. That's how I saw the game, and that's how I still see my memories of the game. I just don't know if it's like that anymore. I was actually thinking of maybe setting up a server on 0.7 and trying to get folks here in the stream to download it and test it with me, because I really want to show them what I talk about so much and like where I've come from, you know? Because that would be the game. If Pre-Fortress like had maintained the vision I believe it should have maintained, that would have been the game that I would have shown my son, you know? I am apprehensive towards the state of the game now, when 0.8 comes to Steam, but I'm hopeful that some elements of it are still preserved, and you know, maybe the best case scenario is that the game just isn't for me anymore, but that would still make me sad because I sorely miss it. It's gotten to the point where I started watching my my old videos again and got misty-eyed because I was so nostalgic for those times. You know? Makes me sound so freaking old. Shoot, man. I mean, seeing you say your name was like, here in chat was like, man, that took me back by itself. It was such good times were had, you know? If you do talk to the developers about it, you can tell them that I'm sorry for advising what I advised. I genuinely didn't realize that the words meant what they meant, and I was very stupid for that. I was very stupid. But I wouldn't blame them at this point if they didn't want me back, because I started pushing back on a lot. I'd be down to play some older versions. Saint Software has most of the older versions archived. Oh, really? That's great. Like, I would love to just, like, quit base TF2 altogether and just reside in Pre-Fortress 2 and just, you know, never look back. Like how it used to be. I can only imagine, damn. Are you talking about, like, the Pre-Fortress nostalgia? It was something, I gotta say. It was something to have. It was a great introduction into online gaming, because I started... I started... So, a very short version of my history playing Team Fortress-related media is that I started playing TF2, and I didn't like it at all. There were too many options and too much noise that I thought the game was only really meant to be played through, like, those friendly 24/7 2-fort servers, you know? And I came across a video or two about Pre-Fortress. I think I came across the Richter overtime video for it, and the somebody else, I think his name's the Brickiest Brick, something like that. And they said, you know, game's pretty flawed, but overall it's a cool concept. And I'm like, well, let me give it a shot. That actually sounds pretty cool. So I went to their website, I downloaded it, I did all the things I had to do, and I just started playing, and it was magical. It was the grenade system and the armor mechanics of TFC with the source engine of TF2, and it was a very special thing, but it was also the most stripped down experience compared to base TF2. You know, because the only servers I would play on TF2 were, at that point, especially once I got into PF2, the only servers I wound up playing on were 100% crit servers that I would play on to train for Pre-Fortress gameplay. I would train myself against the super high damage values so that I could play better in PF2, and it helped me out a lot, actually. And the special thing about it was that it was just a server browser. You just picked the server, or you looked at your friends tab to see where your friends were playing, you joined them, and you just hung out and had a good time, you know? And by hung out and had a good time, I don't mean it even in the sense that, like, casual TF2 players would think of it. I mean it in the sense of, like, we played hard, because there's no unlocks, and there's no there's no way for you to navigate around your skill gap. You just have to get good, you know, with whatever you chose as the class. And it actually, in a very strange way, it naturally facilitated team play in a way I have never experienced since. It wasn't competitive esporty type teamwork that I experienced when I played Highlander in TF2, and it's not even the same kind of teamwork that's done in the TFC games I played, because I'm in a Discord channel with just my teammates, right? But in Pre-Fortress 2, even with all talk on, people were communicating with their team, and it was like, you know, a strategy to like figure out what to say so that, you know, the other team didn't figure out what you were doing, but then also even if they did, it wouldn't matter because you could actually be ready for them, you know? And it amplified the class roles so much. Like Scout with the concussion grenades and the caltrops, the bear traps, was sick, but at the same time he's super weak. Like, and because Sniper can hip fire headshot, like he goes down real quick, right? But then, you know, Soldier and Pyro and Demo Man and Heavy, they're all really strong. Engineers, sentry guns are great, but they're still vulnerable to grenades. But it's also like he's also even more powerful because he's got frag grenades and EMP bombs. Medic's got the heal bomb, as well as a standard frag grenade, and the heal bomb actually works great in place of a concussion grenade that TFC had, because Medic still keeps the medigun, but he also gets the melee that allows him to toxify enemy players, not for as long as TFC, but it actually works in the balance of the experience really, really well. And of course, Sniper's mostly the same. He's the only class that doesn't have a secondary grenade. So he just has 3 standard frags, and he's got his rifle. His rifle functions the same as in TFC and Fortress Forever, I think. And it's really cool, and you'd think he's really powerful because he can just hip fire headshot. He can do the no-scopes because it functions like the classic rifle and whatnot, but even more powerful. But then you got Spy, where he's got 2 guns. He's got the Trank and the revolver, and, you know, the Trank does what you think it would, and he can backstab. He's got those smoke bombs that eat away at armor and disorient players by giving them like double vision or color flashes and whatnot. And it was such a surprisingly cohesive experience. Yeah, there were issues like like I said, Scout's health and armor should not have been buffed to the extent that it was, because there was a reason it was that way in TFC. And with the grenades and the armor reintroduced in TF2, they should have just kept the TFC values, and it would have actually worked really, really well. Right? Like Heavy had 225 armor instead of 300. That's negligible because, 100 health is easy to chew through even with that much armor. But like, they could have kept just all the same armor values and health values as TFC, and it would have worked amazingly. Basically would have worked the same, if not better. And it was such a fantastic experience because in those, even in the casual, laid-back nature of some of those servers, you still had like hardcore team play because suddenly the focus was on playing as well as you possibly could. There's no changing classes. There's no unlocks to like I said, cover for a skill gap. You just play the game and you play hard, and it was so great. And there was such a tight community. Nailgun World was really the server that populated Pre-Fortress. That was Pre-Fortress. If you were playing Pre-Fortress, you played Nailgun World because Nailgun World was where the publicity was. And I got to be the resident YouTuber, and I started my Military Snake YouTube thing, after a couple other things I tried to do. I really got myself going here on YouTube under this name by playing Nailgun World and being the resident YouTuber, and I actually brought people into that game. I wrote songs where the album artwork is from Pre-Fortress. I even dedicated a song to the number 1 player of the entire game, which is JC Denton. He's the guy that makes my thumbnails sometimes. And like, I could make that song so much better nowadays, and I think I will actually, now that I have the gear to do it. But it was the kind of game where that kind of decision made sense, to write a song about a player or to write kind of ambient music that I would listen to while I played the game to get me in a flow state. And I had the artwork of it be Pre-Fortress stuff, and I have those songs. They're still publicly up on YouTube, on my main channel, my music channel, under my real name. And I miss those days when I felt more incentivized to do that kind of thing. And when you have the changes come through that the modern developers want to do, where they want to add a loadout system and give certain classes unlocks, and they want to overhaul the grenade system and change the damage of it, or they want to even change something as simple as like the strategy involved in throwing Pyro's napalm grenade the minute it's supposed to detonate in your hand, and it doesn't detonate until it hits the ground, and you get that extra longevity so that you can take that extra time to throw it properly, and like that little bit of strategy, or how if Sniper could get cover, he could jump and fire his rifle, and you could get a jump shot, and that would be really cool, right? Because it's not a very effective strategy. It's really hard to pull off, but if you pulled it off, it might actually work. But at the same time, wasting that kind of time to line the shot up before jumping, exposes you to more threats, like a scout coming through, or a spy, or a pyro, or a soldier, or literally anyone throwing a grenade your way, because now they know you're there, even without the tracer. And that kind of gameplay, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so intricate, but at the same time, once you get into it, it's so natural and it's so immediate, and you just understand what to do because of the class you're playing. You know what your role is, You've got Demo Man with his pipe bombs, not his sticky bombs, so you lay traps on the ground, and that's your weakness, but at the same time, you've got 6 shots in the primary weapon, not 4, so you get that little extra power, but at the same time, you're still weak to so many other threats, like grenades, and headshots, and backstabs, and all this other normal stuff that you would expect from TF2, but so much more. And it's such a special thing that I miss, and the later versions just started eroding that on a personal level. I'll admit it's a mostly personal thing, and but there was such a core there that to even adjust something slightly would tick off a lot of the players, because the game, as we understood it, was so refined, and then the developers were never communicative publicly, and when they were in the Discord server, and you actually heard about something being talked about in the Discord server, they were talking about things that us nail gunners didn't want. We, outside of, some server crashes, because it was a common bug back in the day for servers to just randomly crash for no reason at all, and it was a pre-Fortress problem, not a server hoster problem. When a change was made, even if it was a small change, we would all get confused and freaked out and annoyed that we would have to adjust to it, because in our heads the game was so refined already, and sure, there were refinements that could have been made, but you didn't need that much to change, And we were grateful that there weren't stuff like cosmetics in the game. We were grateful that there weren't unlocks. We were grateful that even the servers that had custom maps, we chose maps that were specifically more tailored to something like Pre-Fortress's vibe, because you got the old lighting style, which meant the art style, like in Gold Rush, flourishes. The weapons are shiny, actual metal. The shadows are deep. The sun is bright. The desert sand is actual sand and dirt, You could play maps like CP Desperados or CTF Vikings or Convoy, and it made sense to play there because those maps, of course, facilitate the kind of gameplay grenade jumping allows for, but at the same time, you could still play those maps as a team game, Even 2 Fort could be taken seriously, and people would run multiple versions of 2 Fort. I remember playing games of TFC 2 Fort versus Team Fortress 2 Fort, and they played so well, I miss those days. I miss that game. And I know it comes off as so sticklerish, and I know the devs hate that perspective. They hate it. They hate hearing that the old versions of the games are the ones that are looked back on fondly, because they want the new version of the game to be the best version. They want that one to be the most beloved, right? It's like that one dev was talking about with me before I was banned. They want Pre-Fortress to be a maximalist experience. More is more. That was never the appeal of Pre-Fortress. And that's what I tried to say in both of my pre-Fortress videos on the second channel that was then later interpreted as, what, you think the developers shouldn't actually develop their game? What do you mean the developers have a god complex? They're the developers, it's their game. No, what I mean is that even independent of our own opinions, because let's be real, even independent of our own opinions as players, the game developed an identity outside of opinion. It developed a life force of its own. And that was obviously by accident. That was obviously by accident, because the devs didn't want that. They still don't want that. And it's very hard to communicate about with them, because their idea of what a pre-Fortress experience should be is just not why people played the game. The majority of the nail gunners played the game because it was stripped back, because you could hang loose, and at the same time play so tightly with each other. You know? It was this strange dichotomy of you have the maximum latitude to be a complete goofball, but also be the sweatiest tryhard, you know, that you want to be. And both of those work in the same game, if you can believe it or not. You know? And even something as simple as, if I remember correctly, the new weapons will be limited to mostly just a single alt weapon, with some classes probably not even getting any new weapons, and they won't be locked behind any sort of progression at all. That's troubling to me, that some classes would get the benefit treatment while others don't. Like, why not do it for everyone? And at that point, why not lock it behind a progression? Why have achievements at all if you're not going to have them, you know, lock stuff away? Gold Rush does it, and it actually makes sense, because you have to kind of earn what you get. You know, that's always made sense to me. I always thought that was how games were supposed to work. If you were getting better, you get rewarded with more stuff. But then Pre-Fortress comes along, and you don't get any more stuff. You have no incentive to you know, constantly grind for more stuff, other than just because you love playing. And that attracted me. That attracted other people. That was a spirit that was commonly understood. You know, we loved that. And it was such a hard thing when Nailgun World fizzled out, when Boxy started going off the rails, and some of us were weirded out by it, and we left because we didn't want to associate. And then turns out all this other drama happened that I don't want to bring up here because it's incredibly distasteful. But hearing about that, I talked to some of the old guys after the fact, and I was like, you hear about this? And we all just kind of sat there like, darn, it's all gone, you know? And we never played again. Not really. And I miss making those frag movies, and I miss uploading my raw gameplay sessions. I miss the arc of my channel being that I wanted to be the best player in the world at Pre-Fortress 2, because I finally had a game that I wanted to be the best in the world at. That was the game. I have not yet played a game that I would ever want to work that hard to be the best in the world at. Not even some of the games I'm nostalgic for, like Mario Kart Wii or Need for Speed Rivals or even TF2 Gold Rush, you know? For as much as I love that mod for other reasons, it's not a game I want to be the best in the world at. But Pre-Fortress was the game. I had it. It was there, and I was so happy. I got to like rank 10 in overall points scored on that server on Super Nailgun World Revengeance. And anyways, I'm so sorry. I don't really know where I'm going with this, other than that it's just so hard, because that was my game. You know, Pre-Fortress was my game, and in my heart it's still my game, because I loved it that much, and I loved not doing the typical YouTube thing. I loved not making video essays. You know, I loved doing video essays as like an experiment of my writing skills, but I didn't want to wind up doing something like this, the sniper video. I wanted to just stay in Pre-Fortress 2 and play that for the rest of my life. That was my thing, and all because I just happened to come across Richter's video on it, or Brickiest Bricks, both of their videos on it, and like I I couldn't believe how great it was. And it's not going to be that anymore because, like I said, there was an expectation set that the balance was so great. And I admit too, this is probably not the developer's fault. We got used to the developers not communicating. We got used to them being radio silent. We got used to them never playing in the servers of their own game, right? We got used to never hearing from them because we didn't want to join a Discord server to hear updates. We'd rather they just post about it publicly on their website because we checked the website. We even checked their Twitter page more than we did their Discord server, because outside of the server hosters, you didn't need to be on the Discord server. It served no purpose other than just pinging people for looking for games channel, you know? And there was such a rich culture there where everyone who played on Nailgun World was a friend of each other. We were all friends with each other. And so when we saw each other in the friends tab of the server browser, we jumped right in. And oh my gosh, it was great. And it naturally facilitated the social aspects of like old school TF2 that you hear about. Like, you know, the class wars that would come about, or all the goofy stuff that happened, and then we wound up playing the game really hard, right? The culture of Pre-Fortress wasn't this flanderized thing where, like, you know, I've got an old video where I actually play guitar on the mic for the people in the server, and they're like, oh my gosh, you play guitar really well, and it was so cool. And then after that, wound up, we played the game, right? That was the most important part. We still played the game. And that was something that when I came back into TF2 after losing Pre-Fortress, because TF2C just wasn't for me, and neither was Open Fortress. It had its perks and its moments, but it was never really my jam. And I came back into TF2, and I hated it. I hated it so much, and I still hate it, because it's not Nailgun World, and it's not what I grew up with. Like, that was... Because of the way I grew up and was raised, I never had a culture to experience of, like, online gaming, right? I wasn't a PC gamer. My parents had a Wii, right? We've always been a Wii family. We've always been a Nintendo console family. We've never done PC gaming. And so when I got that chance, when I built my PC to play Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and then I found Pre-Fortress 2, I have Doom for myself, I have Quake for myself, but I have Pre-Fortress to play with others. And that was just it. That was my one game. That was my one online game, and I loved it so much. And I don't think that matters to the developers, and I'm not trying to say that to bash them or give them a hard time. I just don't think that matters to them because their priorities are different. And you know what? That's fine. But that probably means that when it comes to Steam and it gets all its nice little quote-unquote refinements, it's just not for me anymore. It's just not going to be for me. And I've been trying to stomach that for the better part of a year, but I'll have to really stomach it when it comes out. It's just a different game. It's gonna be a different game once they get new weapons in and people start using those, which even by itself is just a fundamentally different thing to what I grew up with, you know? And I'm grateful that they have the archive up for the old versions, because you know what people say? They're like, well, if you love it so much, then just play the older versions. You know what? I might try to host servers there and set an experience up there, because I don't want to play the newer versions. I want to play perhaps even just a refined version of 0.7, you know, with just little changes to just make it better. Like, try to figure out why the servers kept crashing and fix that, you know? To learn how to program and code so that I can build my own fork of the code. Like, that would be amazing, man. To learn how to host a server. That would be the best. So, yeah, sorry, this was supposed to be the short version of the story, and if you can believe it, it still is. But, yeah. I regret unlisting all of my Pre-Fortress videos, because I wanted to make my YouTube channel look so much more professional, you know? And that was something I did even independent of the advice people gave me. Because, I genuinely thought that was where I was supposed to wind up with YouTube, and I realized later, my gosh, I miss being able to go find those videos instead of going to the playlists tab, which, let's be real, who goes to the playlists tab anymore? on YouTube in the big 26, and then going to the public playlist that says Pre-Fortress 2 and looking at the like 200 videos I have in there, you know? Most people aren't interested in a more serious Team Fortress experience in the way you are, Snake, and I think it's sad. I think so too. It's not really what spoke to me about the game either, at least not so directly as it did with you, but even I lament that. It's not even that it's like... It's not, and again, I know I get misinterpreted for being like oh, you just want to be a compy tryhard. I don't. I just want an experience where being as casual as people are can be on the same level of acceptable as being... Sorry, I forgot what I said. Basically, that being super loose can be just as acceptable as being super tight, right? And you don't have to vilify anyone for being any one particular way, unless, of course, they're not playing the objective and they're not capturing flags or control points or whatever. At that point, yeah, you get rid of them, because we did that too. We filtered out people who didn't play the game, you know? Maybe you could host a Gold Rush server with the TF2 Nades plugin. Maybe. If I could figure out how to host servers, that'd be sick. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta stop now. I gotta stop streaming for the day. I'm grateful for all the support and y'all sticking around, but I gotta chill out with my wife for the evening, and then of course I've got mass in the morning tomorrow, so no stream tomorrow. But you know, Monday through Saturday, that's the stream schedule. Every morning when I can. And thanks for listening to this very passionate rant. I know it probably doesn't reach a lot of folks' ears, but I know it sure as heck won't reach the developers' ears. But I think that's really the first time I've actually explained myself about my Pre-Fortress experience. So, you know, when it comes to Steam, you can expect a video from me about that. Because that's something I want to do for myself, more so than anything else.